Hello everyone. My name is Reed. I am making this video to share my feelings on Season 17 of Destiny 2. If you want the quick take, here it is. PvE in general has been very good, this season was no exception. Story-wise the game has really been delivering, though I'm unsure how newer players may feel. Leviathan returning was neat and done pretty well. The amount and quality of this season's weapons were quite good. The new dungeon is a lot of fun. Solar 3.0 is a ton of fun. Scorch and Ignite are really fun to play with. PvE continues to thrive, while PvP feels like it gets worse with every season. Rift and Iron Banner were fun, having a new title feels good. Airborne accuracy came out pretty awful. Abilities and damage resistance ran the meta in PvP. Zone control is fun, and I'm glad it came back, but no incentive to really play it. Trials is stagnating. Matchmaking and lobby balancing has felt pretty bad. Weapon balance feels pretty good, with some very strong outliers. Good communication from the devs this season with some decent changes coming mid-season. If you're interested in my expanded thoughts, please, keep watching. To start, I will say that I am mostly a PvP player. As in, that is where I spend the majority of my time. In Control, Trials, Rumble, Comp, etc. However, that does not mean that I don't play PvE. Generally, I try and complete each of the seasonal PvE activities at least once. With that out of the way, let's get into the meat of the video. I am going to break each aspect of the game, PvE and PvP, into two sections, things I liked, and things I didn't like. I'm going to keep my thoughts pretty quick to avoid this video bloating too much. So some things may only get a sentence or two. Let's get started with PvE. The things I liked. I'm going to start with the story. In general, the story has been pretty good for the past few seasons. This season was no exception. Specifically, I think the character development and interactions this season were quite good. Eris has become a good character, which is a big turnaround from Shadowkeep. Crow is still pretty meh, but had good development that makes me hopeful for the future with him. Zavala's past being explored was interesting. But overall not much change with him, it doesn't feel like. Kaitol has been a pretty good character and some of the insight into who she is and what she has gone through was good. Callus is always fun. That held true for this season as well. The Corrupted Leviathan is a cool space, and the Containment public event is a good little event. Not very difficult, but it honestly doesn't need to be. The whole experience is broken up nicely by the opulent keys and chests. Sever was neat, and a good way of delivering the story. Unfortunately, it suffers from the same issues as most story-driven content in Destiny, which is replayability. Once you're finished with the story portion, playing the mission again feels tedious. Seasonal, Haunted, weapons were all pretty good. Biggest positive for them is that they are craftable. The returning opulent weapons were all a huge win. Not much more to say there. All fan favorites, all craftable. What more could we want? The new dungeon was pretty great. The weapons are also great. Solar 3.0 has been pretty great all around. Warlocks probably got the shortest end of the stick, but are still great. Ignite and Scorch are fun mechanics. That's everything that I liked in PvE this season. Now let's get into things I didn't like. I touched on this previously, but story-heavy missions that you need to replay tend to be dull. This season, it was the Sever missions. After the initial playthrough, the entire experience is tedious. Not necessarily unfun, but tedious. The amount of red border weapons needed to extract the pattern is worryingly high. To be able to craft all the weapons from this season, within the season, requires a large amount of grind and playtime. It's less so that a reward requires an investment, and more so that it requires a large amount of luck, as well as a large time investment, leading to a less deterministic outcome. Additionally, this sets a bad precedent for craftable weapons going forward. That's everything that I liked, and didn't like, for PvE in Season 17. Overall, the PvE content this season was quite good. The things that I didn't like honestly feel like mostly nitpicks, and if I were to give this season a letter grade, I would say it gets an A-. Next season will be a high mark to hit. Now, let's get into PvP. I'm going to warn you, this is going to be a much more negative section. So buckle up. As with PvE, I'm going to start with the things I liked this season. The primary weapon meta feels pretty good. Very few things are obvious outliers. The devs have been very communicative, and the mid-season patch was good all around. Iron Banner getting a title is good. The ability to guild it next season is even better. Rift returning is a good thing. Despite the early bugs, the game mode is a lot of fun in Iron Banner. On that same note, Zone Control is a good mode, and a good addition to the Crucible. The solar subclasses are good, and fun. That's about it. There hasn't been a lot of changes to PvP specifically outside of weapon tweaks. And one notable exception. With that in mind, let's get into what I didn't like. The airborne accuracy changes. In general, they are bad. Especially so upon release. However, they have improved after the mid-season patch. The biggest issue was that when the changes initially rolled out, how Bungie described them, and how they actually played were very different. This led to a lot of players, myself included, feeling like these were simply a nerf to higher skilled players. Regardless, Bungie does not seem interested in rolling it back, so any effort to ease the friction it's caused is good. But we will have to deal with this for the foreseeable future. Classy Restoration as a mod has completely dominated the Crucible. Most noticeable on Hunter, but other classes can certainly take advantage of it. This combined with healing grenades being a very fast charging grenade, has slowed the Crucible down significantly. Not that slow is bad, but any advantage gained in a gunfight can basically be negated by throwing your grenade, or using your class ability. The damage resistance meta seems to have reached peak popularity this season. More so in Trials, or competitive, than in Control. It is easily one of the cheesiest and most frustrating things to play against. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that this trend will fully be resolved. Even after the changes to Omni and Lord of Wolves, Glaives will be able to do much of the same thing. Disjunction is a good map for Rift, but pretty awful for about every other game mode. Even worse than Convergence. While we're on the subject of maps, the weighted map rotation this season has been a major bummer. Constantly playing Disjunction, Convergence, and Eternity doesn't feel good, and makes me not want to play them ever again. Trials has been stagnating for a while now. The new weapons are fine, but aren't enough to keep interest in the mode on a broader scale. No major changes to the mode itself are the biggest issue. While Zone Control is fun, there is no incentive to play it. It doesn't count towards the weekly pinnacle, and the population has diminished significantly since the first weeks of the season. Finally, lobby balancing has been crazy out of whack. Swinging back and forth from mercying a team, to being mercied, to completely stomping, to being stomped, with seemingly no real rhyme or reason. This is especially noticeable in competitive or trials, where the game matters slightly more, and your teammate's performance can really decide the outcome of a game. So, there you have it. My thoughts on Season 17. Overall, this was a really good season. Despite PvP feeling bad. This has probably been one of the best seasons we've had in a while. I'm looking forward to what Season 18 has to offer. Hopefully it will hold up to this season. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking the video, and subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate it.